From the News Channel 8 studios, let's talk live with your hosts, Natasha Barrett and Doug McKelway.
If you're one of the lucky ones who's landed a job interview right now, it's important to really nail it. There's too much competition out there.
You know, but so many people are still making simple mistakes that can cost them a job. You know, career coach Gene Stafford is here with the do's and, more importantly, the don'ts of getting the job done in a job interview. Gene, good to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
This is really important stuff. You know, you got to make
important.
this job interview go the right way. First impressions are hugely important in a job interview. What's the first key step in your mind?
I would say the first thing to do is to make sure you have written talking points. It's not unlike a media interview, right, where you're advised to be prepared ahead of time to know what your talking points are. What is it that you want to make sure that you cover?
But don't bring them in the interview.
I wouldn't.
Don't have your note cards out there. That may not look good.
Actually, I think if you have written questions that you want to make sure that you ask, certainly you can bring those into an interview because it can certainly leave the impression that you're prepared for the conversation.
But you don't want to look overly scripted.
Yeah, I would say.
Certainly not looking overly prescripted.
Scripted. We know what you're saying. We're going to ride with it. It works.
If you'd written that down on a note card, you would have gotten it right.
That's exactly right. I did practice.
Exactly right.
You can't tell.
You know, Gene, there's so many times, and I think everybody's had this point in their life where they go to an interview and you think, I did well. They're not calling. What did I do? What did I do? So let's just go down a list of what you shouldn't say.
What you shouldn't say. I think those are good things to cover.
Number one, what would you say?
Not to say?
Yeah.
Well, certainly I hated my last boss.
That guy was a jerk, right?
Because the new boss could very well be the next last boss.
That's right. That's right.
Or know your last boss.
And most of us have a boss that we didn't like very much. But saying you hate anything is not a good idea in a job interview. Rather, and to the point, if you're concerned about what your relationship is going to be with your boss, you can ask some good questions, perhaps. Can you explain to me what your management style is? Can you explain to me how you typically like your direct reports to bring problems to you? Taking it a little further, you might even develop a scenario that parallels an experience you had in your last job that didn't go very well for you, and present that to your potential new boss and say, how would you want your people to handle this situation if it occurred? And by the way, how would you handle that situation with your direct reports? Back to your point, though, Doug, when you said you don't want to look overly scripted, I'm a tremendous advocate of developing a script. And the value of developing a script is that it gives you an opportunity to practice what it is you want to say.
And you have a plan.
And you have a plan. Very good. You have a plan. However, you have to practice that script, right? You have to practice that script so that you do come off in something of a relaxed fashion.
Well, you know
we've got some more of these important
another one
do's
on
and don'ts
here. Never say, I don't know anything about the company.
Oh, my. Be prepared.
And people have said this. Oh,
yes,
tell me about this.
common.
I don't know anything about Channel 7 and Channel 8. What do you guys do?
So why do you want to come to work here?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the impression that it leaves. It makes you look rather foolish. Information is so easily available on the net. If you walk into a job interview without proper preparation, then it's going to make you look like you haven't even bothered to take the time to be prepared.
Now, what if there's bad information about that company out there, or people who say it has a bad reputation, treating employees badly, something like that? Is it okay to bring something like that up?
I think if you have concerns about how your experience is going to go if you're working in this place, certainly you ought to be bringing it up in the interview process. They're interviewing you, make no mistake about that, but it's also the potential employees' responsibility to be interviewing the employer, wouldn't you say? Because it's your responsibility in the end to make a good decision about whether working with this organization is a good match for you.
Good or not. This is one I can't stand because it's always asked in every interview. Do you have any questions for us? You say, don't say, no, I don't have any questions, but sometimes your mind is racing. You're thinking, crap, I don't have any questions.
That has happened to me. I actually did that one time. Yeah, and I felt really bad. I knew it was a mistake. The minute it happened.
Be prepared. Write your questions in advance. And as I mentioned earlier, you can take those questions into the interview and literally read them off of the page. It leaves the impression that you have put the effort into it ahead of time and you think enough about the situation to make sure you're getting the information you need to make a good decision and vice versa.
I just think sometimes you've gone through it all. And they say that at the end, you know, it's an hour interview and you're thinking, when am I getting out of here? And they say that again. You're like,
My first college interview, when I went to college to see what college I wanted to go to, I sat down in the office with the career counselor at the school, and she said, "Well, what do you want to know?" And I stood and I said,
"How many girls are on campus?"
No, I didn't know because I was so unprepared for that, and I didn't get into that at school. So.
She did you a favor. You'll never make that mistake again.
Let's go over some others. You say not to say I'm going to need to take these days off, and how long until I get a promotion? Those are kind of obvious ones. You may not want to double on that. You don't have the job yet, right?
You don't have the job yet, which is the very important point. Those are good questions to be asking. Certainly, you don't want to take a job and get into a new job situation and learn that the organization has no performance review policy and no policy for how to explain a promotion to people. So you should be gaining that information before you make a decision about accepting the job.
Okay.
You take those questions after you have your job offer. But before you take the offer, before you accept the offer, the point of greatest leverage that you're ever going to have is between the job offer and accepting it. And so you bring up anything that you'd like to negotiate into your job offer, which could be increased pay, it could be more time off, it could be flex time, it could be working at home.
You don't want to jump the gun and presume you have it.
The general gist of what you're saying here, I get, is that you don't want to come off as a malcontent or a complainer. That's just the worst possible signal you could send.
I agree with that. Everybody wants to work with somebody who's fun to work with, agreeable,
not a whiner,
easy to be around, and comes off as someone who is going to jump in and solve problems, not create more.
One other thing I want to hit before we go with you, don't get too personal. It says right here, don't ask questions like, are you an active member in your church? Do you do this? Don't go there.
That's akin to asking somebody their political affiliation.
Yeah.
It's no good.
Better left unasked.
Yeah,
Right.
You don't know where that could go, especially if you're totally on this side and this side. Where could that go in an interview?
Yeah.
Gene, all good points. So
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We got to write those down just in case.
I know. You never know when that day might come again.
Also on the show today, are you looking to get more money back in your wallet? Well, who is it? Now could be the best time to do it.